Hi, Evelyn. Welcome back to the podcast. We're so excited to go over the astrological forecast for April with you.
It's a big month. April is got a lot going on for us, so there's definitely a lot
Yeah.
to discuss.
I know, and we're meeting in between eclipses, so I'm sure everyone out there can feel this energy as we move into April. I am very curious to hear what the astrological theme for the month is going to be.
Well, because the new moon eclipse in Aries is upon us in April, of course the theme is going to be surrounding that. And Aries represents initiation, fire, empowerment, focus, and drive and ambition. It's going to be self motivation and self empowerment for sure.
Okay, and it's there with the it's North Node, right? Everything is happening
Yes.
with the North Node and Chiron, if I'm not
Yes.
mistaken. So
Yes.
that's kind of an extra added overshadowing uh, factor.
Absolutely. So, Aries is, of course, the first sign of the zodiac. It ushers in spring. It is our astrological new year. So, with the new moon in Aries is really the beginning of our year ahead in astro speak. Um, and with that north node aspect, which is what creates the eclipses, whenever the new and full moon are within 10 degrees of the
I
north
see.
or south node, is how we get an eclipse, is initiating a completely new sense of self and identity and purpose.
Mm. Okay, thank you for explaining that because I've wondered a little bit about what makes it an actual eclipse, and so you're saying it actually has to do with the nodes.
Yes, yeah. So a
Okay.
penumbral or partial eclipse will be an eclipse about 10 degrees and further away from the nodes. So
Okay.
that means the sun and the moon are 10 degrees and further away. Um, and then a total eclipse is when the sun and the moon are either in full or new within very close to orb of the eclipse, or I'm sorry,
Mhm.
the node. And so for this eclipse, and I'll show the chart when we get there, but
Right.
the new moon is within 4 degrees. So it's a total solar eclipse.
Interesting. So would you say when you have a new moon eclipse with a north node, what's the benefit of it being with the north node versus it being with the south?
Well, the north node is Rahu, which is the head of the serpent. It's the there's a lot of cultural mythical associations with the North Node as being more beneficial, as
Mhm.
creating dharma, actualization, individuation, whereas the South Node, Ketu, or the tail of the serpent, is elimination, secretion, purging. So the North Node is quite optimistic, and it's helping us to create and energize new energy. I definitely use the terms dharma versus karma when it comes
Right.
to the nodes, because the north node is offering us the ability to actualize our dharma, which is to create new modes of energy in whatever area of life that the eclipse is highlighting. And then the south node is basically like working off our karma.
Okay. Interesting. So, um, what sign would you say that this is affecting the most as this starts and then how long is the period for? Is it a full year? Is like because it's in April and it's an Aries eclipse. Would it be for the start of the next year until next year?
That's a good question. The eclipse cycles usually will open and end cap for about a year. The end cap for this eclipse is in the fall of this
Okay.
year. Yeah, so the fall will be the last eclipse end cap that we have in the Aries Libra axis. And then we begin the new eclipse axis in Pisces and Virgo next year.
Okay, I see.
Hmm.
Amazing. And then what would you say we should focus on during those dates or that date in particular?
Yeah, so I think that it's kind of hard to ignore anything that's coming up around the eclipses. It's sort of um, like a cosmic sort of wheel of fortune that we don't really have a lot of control over.
Yeah.
Like the new moons and full moons throughout the year, we have a bit more of our own ability to work with the energies, but it's really hard to predict what the eclipse cycle is going to it's really hard to predict how to work with it, I should say,
Hmm.
because it's karmic rebalancing. And the karmic rebalancing is really up to, and if you believe in a higher power, a higher order, or the universal energies, it's really up to those cycles. Some people, in the maybe more of the Wiccan or who practice witchcraft or magic would say to never work with the eclipses because they're too unpredictable and too unsteady of energy.
Mm.
So people will say not to use eclipse energy, but I think it's all very different based off of your comfort level with your
Okay.
spirituality.
Right.
I've worked with the eclipses and they definitely manifest and generate outcomes. Um, I think it's really just, yeah, how intentional you are in your practice.
Right, right. No, and I think I always have this vision of, someone yelling, the eclipses are coming, the eclipses are coming. I don't even know where I got that from, but it is in my head as kind of like a warning. And so I hear it, so, I think it when we're in these eclipse times, because I'm like, oh, should I be extra cautious or aware or what should I even focus on? But it does seem like it's so unpredictable. Good, bad, or whatever. Um, how can you really know?
Yeah, yeah. I feel like if as long as you are working towards self evolution, bettering yourself,
Mhm.
working on your shadow, I think that, the eclipses will bring in and take out life experiences, people, places, things that are conducive to our growth. Either way, it's kind of like, the nodes and Saturn work similarly, where there's a process of karmic balancing that happens when there's associations with the nodes and Saturn, um, where Saturn will take things away from us if we're abusing certain aspects of our lives,
Mhm.
or it'll reward us because we're doing the diligent work that we need to do to better ourselves, work with the energies, and not, you know, um, harm ourselves or others. So I feel
Mhm.
like that's similar with the eclipses, where
Okay.
things just come in that need to come in, things come out that need to leave.
Right. Right. Okay. We'll stick with that and just wish everybody luck on this one. But I mean, I do feel as with the North Node, it almost that gives me a little bit of positivity with it being, kind of conjunct that.
Yeah,
Yeah, but then there's that Chiron there too, where we're kind of dealing with all of us are dealing with our own wounding on different levels.
right. Yeah, absolutely. And then also, we're both Libras.
Yeah.
So the South Node is going over our Sun, which
Yeah.
is kind of tough.
Yes.
It's not the best time for Libras, I'd say, at this point. But it's
Right.
it's a little difficult because all of the energy is being accentuated in the opposite part of the chart. And then so for Cancers and Capricorns, you're
Mm.
going to see that tension build with Cancer and Capricorn energies. Like I'd say Aries are the ones that are getting all the cosmic juice from this eclipse.
Mm, right.
Um,
Okay.
and yeah, the South Node going over the sun of Libra suns
Yeah.
is, can be feeling down, um, lack of energy. The solar energies are maybe more depressed or harder to access.
Mhm.
Um, it's requiring a lot of energy to focus outward, which is that Aries opposition to Libra.
Right, right. No, it's definitely affected as it hits multiple planets in my Libra chart. It has really affected quite a bit where I'm alarmed. I'm quite alarmed. And my Saturn's there too. So it's like my Saturn and then my Sun. It's actually on my Jupiter, what was on my Jupiter a little bit ago. But the this eclipse actually is opposing my Jupiter in Libra. So it does feel a little uncertain. And how do I manifest moving forward while still somewhat feeling like I have control over my life and that, the protection of like my children and everything else. So yeah, it's causing a lot of uncomfortable feeling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. To say the least, I can attest to that as a Libra.
Yes. Yes. So yeah, whoever's going through it out there, I feel you. I totally we both feel you because it's just um yeah, it's so weird, and you're seeing it projected out into the world too, where it's like, "What in the world is going on?" You know?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And also, yeah, around the eclipses, we always have just a flurry of things happening in the news and the media and
Yes.
the world. It's kind of like everyone's energy just gets like a little hyper manic.
Yes. Yes, and I think too, I was thinking about this with all the Pisces being behind it and Neptune being that ruler and then all these planets in Pisces, it feels like something is coming and something is happening because it's all behind and you're just I don't know, it's like I get this vision of it just you're sensing what's really going on? Is this a real picture of Kate? All these things and that was going on for
Oh my
so many
gosh.
weeks, and, like or months even, where you're just
Yeah.
like, "What's really happening here?" So,
Right.
people
Right.
wouldn't even think about it before if, there wasn't a picture of the princess. They're like, "Okay, whatever." Now it's like, "What are you showing me? What is this? Is this real?" It's like, "Oh, goodness." So,
Yes.
how do you how do you how do you process that and know what to trust and I think that that's really coming up a lot as well.
Absolutely. And when we get into later in the month,
Mhm.
or I can just talk about it now, the Jupiter
Yeah.
Uranus conjunction is
Right.
coming up in
Is
the
it coming up in April?
it is, yeah.
Oh, tell us more.
Yeah, I'll show you the chart for that. Let's see. So that is coming up April 20th.
Oh, and that's always a day, isn't it? April 20th.
Is
It it's
what is it?
It's Hitler's birthday, it's the Queen's birthday.
Oh
It's a
my goodness.
really ominous yeah, it was, Columbine happened on that day.
I had no idea.
Yeah, it's always a weird day to me when somebody says, "Oh, it's April 20th." I'm like, "Oh,
Oh my goodness. Well,
trigger point."
yes, April 20th. This year we will have Jupiter Uranus conjunction.
Mm,
And the Uranus Jupiter conjunction, this one's quite big because Uranus, of course, is the god of chaos. It's the god of unpredictability, but also culture and society, and also our network and how we connect with each other. And then Jupiter is our faith and our belief systems, and it creates an abundance or an inflation of wherever it is. And with these two combined, speaking to what you were saying earlier of like not being
Mhm.
able to believe what we see, not knowing what to believe, Uranus is going to shake up our belief systems. Uranus is going to radically alter a lot of our foundational belief systems throughout the world. And it does that periodically. The last time Jupiter and Uranus were conjunct was January 4th in 2011, and it was in Pisces. And I think if we think back to that time, 2011,
Mhm.
there was a shift in the paradigm with new age belief systems and new age thinking. That's kind of when the eruption of it became more available. That's,
Right,
I know, when I became more aware of alternative belief systems. And that's when I personally became more invested in astrology and
right.
learning about alternative health and alternative care. So I think that we're coming to a full circle around that with Uranus and Jupiter connection in Taurus, which is now found like developing a foundational belief around these alternative belief systems.
Mm.
Um, Before that, the last time, and this may be quite concerning for everyone, is the last time Uranus and Jupiter were conjunct in Taurus was
Mhm.
in May of 1941.
Mm.
1941 was a big year for the United States
It
and the
was.
global economy. That's when
Absolutely.
it was.
That World War II, when is that when right when we got involved, or were we already involved prior to that?
World War II was declared in December of 1941.
Mm.
hmm And then the gold standard, we were taken off the gold standard.
Oh,
hmm Yep.
interesting. Okay. So financial ramifications as well.
Yes. And right now, we've talked about this so much, but we're
Yeah.
watching it come into play now, especially with the Jupiter Uranus conjunction in Taurus, is the global digital currency.
Mhm.
So that we'll probably see a lot more movement with the global digital currency during the Jupiter Uranus conjunction. Um,
I see.
April
And would that show any like would that just be all governments coming together to try to make one type of form of currency?
I That's what the global digital currency is about, is the what is it, the WEF,
Yes,
the World Economic Forum has proposed to create this global digital currency to replace
money.
essentially the dollar and euro. And um, BRICS is formed with Russia, China, Saudi Arabia, and a few other smaller countries who oppose this. So
Mm.
Russia,
Okay.
China, BRICS is actively trying to essentially take the dollar off of the global standard by using and implementing their own currency to trade in the global economy. Because we've
Right.
been trading with the global economy in dollars.
Right.
So that's what the huge shakeup is right now. The currency for the globe is going through a massive shakeup. And when we were taken off of the the gold standard in
Mhm.
1941 is when we had the Federal Reserve start to just print
Money.
money like crazy. And that's when you see inflation just like skyrocketing. And there's no cap right now. There's no cap for what we can print and how we
Right.
pay it back.
Right. Yeah,
So
because it doesn't seem even possible or even feasible. You just they've been printing for so long, and they did that big pump in 2020 and 2021, and it feels like, yeah, how is that ever going to be repaid? And then are they, when we say that, right? Is the government purposely depleting the reserves for some reason, and we're just going kind of along with it, thinking, oh, it's fine, it'll all work out. um that's how it feels, and I think that's how the general public sees it. They think it's all fine, they'll figure it out. um but
mhm.
this is alarming, the timeline,
Yeah.
especially with everything going on with the king, and everything going on there with the royal family, right?
Yeah.
There's definitely some shakeup happening. Um, so
Yeah.
it does just cause more questions than answers, to be honest.
Yes. I'm trying to see. Oh, I thought I had King Charles's chart in here, but I know he is also going through um a big transit with the eclipse
Oh, is it this
too.
eclipse?
Yeah, and then yeah, it seems as though the whole royal family is like disintegrating or they're
Right,
falling
right.
apart.
It does, or it's definitely looking to be that way. So it's weird. It's weird. It's not something we've ever seen before in our lifetime, that's for sure.
Right.
So,
Right. So there's going to be a lot of shifts going on globally when it comes to the markets and
mhm,
also potentially, I mean, I'm not sure if we will declare war this year, maybe next year. I know that Uranus and Gemini will be the
mhm,
United States Uranus return, which
okay.
oftentimes does correlate to us being in war when Uranus is in Gemini. So either this year or next year, but I think we all can feel and sense that that's sort of a looming,
Yeah,
obvious
possibility.
possibility. And with the way that this current administration is functioning and even the alternative, it doesn't
Mhm.
seem like there would be any good um, communications between foreign diplomats with any of them. They all seem pretty haughty and egotistical and
Yeah.
senile.
You know, like, I mean, it's a good word. I mean, I definitely feel as though no matter what side you're on, yeah, they're trying to not let one president, run, that being Trump. They're really doing a lot to try and block that, which seems odd. I don't know why it seems so odd to me, other than um, you really have to not want something to happen to put so much energy into trying to make it not happen. Um,
Well,
so there's that, and then they're blocking the third candidate from really getting on the ballot. RFK is not really
per
being put on the,
usual.
yeah, and then if you talk to either side, they, a lot of times they hate him because they feel like their votes are going to be taken away from. And it's just this weird, talk about being a Libra and you're trying to find the balance in anything. And you're just like, okay, well, I think I just give up. I give up on all you. I can't,
Right.
I can't, I can't please anyone. Whoever you pick, you're not going to. So, and I think that that's what I'm sensing even coming into the future, is like, no one's going to be happy,
Right.
you
Yeah.
know, for one reason or another. So
Right. Right.
just take it as it comes. What would you say? Not would you say? Is that 420 date close to the full moon, or is that what day does the full moon land on this month?
The full moon it is close to the full moon. The full moon is on April. Let me get that chart up. Will be in Scorpio
Oh,
and it will be April 23rd. So we can go ahead and
oh.
share that. We can look at this. So at 4 degrees Scorpio on
Mhm.
April 23rd, and let me get the accurate time for us. And yep, here we go. So 4:50 p.m.
Right.
And this full moon has a T square with Pluto. So
Oh,
again,
wonderful.
you're right. Uh, April's a big month. Not to mention Mercury will be retrograde the whole time, starting
Okay.
on the 1st in Aries. So the full moon,
Okay.
the eclipse, everything will have Mercury retrograde throughout in Aries, which is Mercury in Aries. When we think of Mercury in Aries, the mind, how fast it moves, its
Mhm.
instincts, its instinctual reactions, which can be very quick and intellectual. However, just put in a little bit of defensiveness in there, and it's going to run with whatever frustrations, irritations that it might have. Mercury retrograde in Aries in the full moon chart is something to consider because it will be touching that north node. It might be a time where we feel like we have to go back on what we've said, or we have to really reassess the history and the communication and the words that we use and why we said it and where it came from. Understanding the instinctual responses in our physical bodies and how that affects the way we communicate on a day to day or even momentarily basis.
Mhm.
Because the sun is in Taurus, that's the physical senses, the connection with the body. Scorpio is the emotional, how we eliminate our emotions, how we get them out, how we share them, how we expose them. And then Pluto, T square, is a frustration, a tension, or a need, like a deep desire to release or extinguish
Mm.
um, uncomfortable feelings or things that just need to get out. I have to say this. I can't keep it in any longer. Something has to be spoken. Um, so it's another deep purge.
Mhm.
It's a deep purge, and for some it could feel like an emotional purge. For some it could be a verbal communication. For others it might be even just with stuff, items, physical things, people, work, time, something is purging out of the system. And it's for the sake of coming into a more pure
Mhm.
form of existence and being, simplification, being simple. And we might feel this
Right.
towards the end after the eclipses and everything, where we're like, okay, it's just too much. Like, Uranus Jupiter connection was like bringing in way too much random chaotic information. I can't wrap my head around this. I just want simple, easy to digest life experiences, simple pleasures, very Taurian. How do
Mhm.
we access that? So that's the full moon, April 23rd
Interesting.
energies.
Okay. That's yeah, that's intense. I mean, and as you're talking, I'm just noticing all the things that are hitting just exact exact on my chart. So it's one of those moments where it's going to be really interesting to see what the collective is purging and what really is coming out from that eclipse time to this full moon as well, because it
Mhm.
it definitely feels intense.
Mhm. And when we just bring it down to basics, it's spring. So,
Right.
we always do spring cleaning in Aries season here in the
Yeah.
northern hemisphere. So, it
Yeah.
could also just be simple as like
Throwing away.
throwing things away, garage sales, getting rid of old stuff, old baggage, refreshing the energy, which is also very Scorpio, right?
Right.
Scorpio Taurus is zhuzhing, refreshing, beautifying, making things new again, making things feel pure and clean again.
Okay. I like that.
Mhm.
Set up a big garage sale, everyone.
Yeah. I feel like sometimes we can like go deep into the
Right.
into
Right.
this into the astrology, but then sometimes it's simply just you're gonna have a garage sale.
Right, right, I like it. It's a little easier, uh,
Mhm.
to digest. Okay.
Absolutely. And then this month too, we have um going back a little bit, Venus ingressing into Aries. So that's at the
Yeah, it's
beginning of
moving
the month.
fast, isn't it? It's pretty
Mhm. Yeah, so she does that on the 4th. So here we've got Venus in Pisces. She passes over Neptune and then finds her way into Aries. And Venus in Aries.
Mhm.
So on the 4th, let me get some exact times, around 9 p.m. And that's just a few days after Mercury goes retrograde. So Mercury goes retrograde on April 1st.
Mm.
A few days later, Venus enters Aries and makes a sextile to Pluto, crossing over that Neptune. So it's kind of like this adventurous spirit in love and
Okay.
adventurous spirit in self-expression.
Yeah.
It's Venus and Aries. Whenever I see it in people's charts, I see this sort of not necessarily radical, but like cannot be contained, like very strong independence of like taking on the world and doing
Mm.
it for themselves, but also the people that they love, like the hero of the relationship.
Right.
So it's a very exploratory type of Venus where she's wanting to understand and push her boundaries beyond what is even acceptable in society. So
Mm.
the feminine nature of Venus opens us up to more of a radical self expression when it comes to love and romance, but also in our relationships too. So we might feel more alive, more
Mhm.
apt to sharing ourselves, more apt to like going out and getting what we want from other people. Venus is also the planet that speaks to and governs our material world and our finances. So we
Right.
might be seeking more avenues for financial, like side hustles, things like that, or ways to access income and money based off of our own personal skill sets.
Got it. And as it crosses over Neptune, is that a sense of not knowing? It's almost like to me, whenever a planet crosses over Neptune, it's like it's a little bit of like you're in the fog and you just kind of don't have a clear vision until it gets past it.
Yeah, and conjunctions are seeds too. They're seeds, they're plants. It's like the dark, the dark, the darkness or the introspection period. So it can be hard to see exactly what it is that we value or what we truly care about. And when Venus moves over that Neptune, it's yeah, like you're saying, kind of the cloudiness around what our direction is or our purpose when it comes to love. And we can also get caught in a lot of imaginative, fantastical interpretations of
Mm,
not just ourselves, but other people in our lives. So we might get caught up in some fantasies with other people and ideas or concepts of other people, idealizing others during that time. So it's a very creative experience, but I think if you're untethered or if you have a tendency to like have a very strong imagination, can go into these spaces of um Yeah, just like creating ideas and fantasies and images and depictions of other people that might not necessarily be completely true. But also,
Got
it's a really creative and inspirational time too for a lot of
it.
people.
Okay. So after that time, and then it goes into that Aries fiery warrior loving energy. I like it.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
I feel like it gives a little bit of a comfort, bringing that energy, bringing that Venus out of that um, Mars, Saturn, Neptune energy, pushing it into Aries.
Yeah, yeah. And yeah, I think it will feel more of the direction, just like, oh, okay, I know what I want now. I know what it
Right.
is that I need to get for
Okay.
myself.
I mean, that's good because I feel like people have been, I mean, including myself, it's like a little bit confused on the direction of where to go. So
Hmm.
that's, I like that. I like having a little bit more understanding, clarity is
Yeah,
the word here.
absolutely. It's nice for
Yeah.
sure. Direction, somewhere to go, somewhere to put our
Yeah,
energies, a
exactly.
goal, especially for the cardinal signs, having
I don't,
a goal.
a goal. Give me the direction and I will go because
Yep.
I can't just sit here waiting. Um, and is there
Yep.
anything else that we should be on the lookout for next month? I mean, that's already a lot, but
It is a lot. Yeah. I mean, let's see. We've got that full moon. And then at the end of the month, Venus ingresses into Taurus on the 29th. So I'll go ahead and take a look at her. So then she shifts from that fiery, passionate Aries into a slow moving Taurus. Um, Passionate, loving, slow, luxurious, sensual Taurus.
yeah.
And she's also slowly coming back down to her evening star phase. So she's starting to become more tempered. She's calming down. She's getting out of this kind of, I guess I would say, conspiratorial mode, um, and coming back into line with the sun slowly and slowly.
Hmm.
Um, but when Venus is in Taurus, she really relishes there. She will be making a square to Pluto. So, again, another sense of urgency or need to shake up the foundational value system when it comes to money. I think this is just a big thing for everyone. Of course, money is on all of our minds all the time,
Yeah.
but I think moving forward, I've noticed, right, through 2020, 2021, I know for myself and other people, we maybe had some more optimistic perspectives around what the future can hold for us financially.
Hmm.
And it seems as though now, especially with that Jupiter Uranus conjunction in Taurus, there might be a shift in a realization of, oh, actually, maybe I can't just bank on my like side hustles working for me. Maybe I really need to invest in something much more meaningful, more practical for
Mm.
myself so that I can see a return later on. And that's also the Taurus theme is what is the long-term value of something? How long is something going to last? What's the longevity of the the value or the worth of something. So I think I'm seeing too a shift in the way that people are working and the way that people are navigating. For instance, so many people are like, I'm going to work for myself. I'm going to start this business. I'm
Hmm.
going to sell stickers on Etsy, right? And then
Right.
they're like,
Right.
and then there was a boom and then it stops, and they're like, oh, okay, so I guess I need to figure out something else that is going to be more sustaining for myself. That was so big. So many people quit their jobs to start a
Yes.
business.
I know. I know. So many.
in
Um,
2020. Mhm.
so you're seeing that it needs to be corrected, almost like it
Yeah.
could be like a correction.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are realizing, "Oh, I actually need something that's more sustainable, more
Mhm.
consistent, more regular." Um, Jupiter Uranus and something that's has is more sustainable long term.
Yeah, that makes sense. I feel as though there were a lot of dreams that were being created and followed during that time. And then people were, and maybe it was all the Neptune energy, but people were um, going off and saying, I don't need this. I don't want to do this anymore. A lot of bridges burnt, and people are trying to. I'm seeing it more now where people are trying to find jobs, and there's just not work out there. There's just
Yeah.
the crazy amount of unemployment that people are talking about a little bit, but when I talk to daily day-to-day customers, a lot of them are still out of work. Um, and
Mhm.
it's concerning to me. It's obviously concerning, but it's like they had a big shift in 2020 and 2021, and now they're looking again. But the job market is really changed because there's not as many things around. I mean, you're
Mhm.
seeing a lot of things closing up and things shutting down, and you know the opportunities are changing because of AI. I just think that it's we don't know where we're going to end up is how it feels.
Yeah. Yeah.
Even with TikTok, I mean, TikTok is being potentially banned, which I think I was pretty convinced it was going to happen, actually last year, and then it kind of comes back. So I actually think they're going to do it at some point. But how many, including us, that have started to get on there and be able to sell things? It's the only place that we've sold product out of all the marketplaces.
Oh,
And we've been on Instagram a long time. And
wow.
TikTok, for whatever reason, we've had more sales just through that
Hmm.
than our website than anywhere. So it's really interesting that they would then choose to shut it down. So that
Right.
will affect a lot of people. It will affect a lot of people.
Yeah, if that happens, I'm not really sure. It seemed like it passed, but then does it have to get signed by
Well, I think it
the
passed the
president?
Senate, and then I don't think it passed the House yet. They
Oh, okay.
postponed it, and then Biden said he would sign it if it came to his desk or whoever, So that
Oh,
is true. Yeah, like, so
whoa.
that's why it's like it only really has one more hurdle. And what is TikTok going to do? Are they going to sell out their company to a US company? I mean, it's just very manipulative, if you ask me. I mean, it's love the US, hate the US, whatever. We're a big monopoly. Meta and all these things are now controlled by the government. I mean, they've had numerous accusations that have been confirmed. Um, they are they take stuff down if it doesn't they don't like it. Well, I mean, let's be real. Where TikTok, yes, they're still I feel like they ban stuff as well, but it was not necessarily by government officials going in and telling them to do it.
Hmm.
So it's so weird. To be honest with you, when you start to look into these things deeper, you feel like it's incestuous. It's like, oh, if we can't control it,
Hmm.
you're not in our family. We don't, you're out.
Hmm.
And I mean, and it
Interesting.
could be for protection too of Americans. We don't, I can't say that it's not at all. Um,
Right.
that there's data harvesting and things like that. But Facebook and everything else, there's data harvesting. They're doing it everywhere.
Right. It's just the difference is
Who
which
has it?
foreign entity has access to it.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
Which military contract has
Yes.
access to it. But
Yeah.
yeah, I'm and with TikTok, so I'm not on it. I don't know I'm just watching what's happening with it, and I've
Mhm.
listened to this podcast called Congressional Dish that kind of broke down the TikTok ban bill, and
Okay, yeah.
I trust them. They've been following congressional bills for over a decade, and they read them and then they report on them.
Mhm.
And it's two women, um, and she says that it's an absolute overreach, and so many things in the bill make it so that the president can ban anything, just can ban anything on basically the App Store. Um, and so it is an extreme overreach. And then there's this other person that I watch. Um, I can't remember his name, but he's on TikTok. He's really big, and he did a test to see if the TikTok video algorithm was in favor of China or the US.
Right.
And
Right.
because he's like, okay, I'm just going to do a test. I'm going to do a video on China, being very critical of China and see what happens. And he did. And then the views got lowered. But then he did that on certain other videos and the views got lowered. So it's just interesting how, yeah, there is the algorithm technology is what it's
Mhm.
about.
I
Because
think so too.
it's
Yeah.
not TikTok, the app itself, but it's whoever has access to the algorithm technology is what they are actually going after, but
Mm.
they're, too disconnected and out of touch with technology in Congress that they don't actually know what it is that they're talking about. So they're
Yeah.
not being they're not being well guided, and it's misguiding the citizens, which is really unfortunate.
Well, and I think we've been misguided for a long time now. I mean, it's like this is just one bill that comes up that we're starting to look more into, but it's like how many other bills have passed, whether it be for, financial aid to Ukraine or whatever it is, that they're hiding so much in there that you
Mhm.
just, as Americans, we're just like, oh, okay, we just trust you, I guess. We just trust you. And it's a constant thing that feels like it keeps happening. I mean, and we're coming up to that moment in America where the tensions feel so high that the trust feels broken in a way, whatever side you want to look at it, and how are we able to reinvent this thing we call democracy?
Yeah, absolutely. And then going back to Uranus Jupiter conjunction, which is the belief
Mhm.
systems and the way that we view society and how we believe, or our faith in society, I should say, our faith in the cultural structures is changing. It's the way that we connect with one another and identify with each other, which we have so many different ideas and views and beliefs around one piece of information. Um,
Yes, it's true.
and so I think it's very fascinating to watch how it unfolds. And I'm just kind of experiencing or exploring how each person interprets one piece of information that comes out, whether it's through like a superstitious or conspiratorial or just at face value approach.
Yes. Yeah. It is interesting because everybody does see you could take one thing and they're all gonna see it slightly different.
Mhm.
So I'm curious to see with that Jupiter Uranus conjunction if people start to if it almost starts to ease it a little bit, where people do start to come together a little bit more and see things in a more similar light again.
Yeah, yeah,
Be
maybe.
curious to I mean,
Um,
or it blows it all up and we don't.
well, I think what Jupiter will inevitably do is it will inflate the differences
Mm,
between us.
makes sense.
Yeah, it will make the differences more apparent, and it can also create more radical disconnect and more awarenesses of how we're different.
Okay.
Yeah.
Makes sense. That
Yeah.
actually makes a lot of sense.
So
Well, buckle up
buckle up for April.
for April. Oh my goodness, that was so good. Thank you. Thank you for this wonderful overview. Is there anything else you wanted to add before we close?
Um, now just at the end of the month, we'll have Mars ingressing into Aries. So,
Mm,
we talked about it, I think, last month, but Mars being in Pisces this whole month
yep.
actually does help to calm the energies in a bit in a way that allows us to consciously move towards passivity. And I think we'll notice throughout all of the intensity and craziness that comes up, what we really want in general for everyone is just calm peacefulness.
Right.
And I think that will be the general undertone with how we move through the month of like, okay, it's crazy, it's all everything's going insane, but how can I generate calmness and how can I generate peace in this situation? So I think that is going to be a really nice sort of silver lining with Mars and Pisces
And when does Mars what's the date that Mars moves into Aries?
on the 30th,
Okay, April
the
30th.
very end of the month.
And anything we should be aware of during that time?
When Mars moves into Aries,
It's home sign.
yeah, it's home sign. It transits over that Neptune. So
Mhm.
similar as how Venus, the Venus experience will be.
Yeah.
It's kind of like going through this portal of
Right.
fogginess.
Right, and I know with Mars, Neptune, it's typically very tiring. Like, people get very tired.
Hmm.
That I mean, that's usually what comes up for me and what I've seen with my friends, so
The energy is lower. It's
yeah,
hard to move. You might feel like you don't want to, yeah, you need to rest more.
like lethargic.
Yeah, yeah. So it could be a good time to relax and rest for yourself and recuperate because once Mars goes into Aries, then it's go time.
Yeah, it's like, yep, that's the go button. Okay, well, we'll keep an eye out for that, and, I look forward to our talk for May.
Yeah.
Hopefully, it's a little less intense.
Yeah. I have a feeling it probably will be.
Good. 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 Thank you so much, Evelyn.
You're so welcome. Thank you for having me.